Okay, we're live.
Thank you. So welcome to our library meeting tonight, April 14th. Where does the time go? Welcome to everyone on the board and to members of the public that may be joining in to watch now or at a later date. So we'll call the meeting to order. And we do have an addition to the agenda that Karen added. So under action items, number 7, we'll be adding item D, which is the organizational review, consultation services, review and evaluate the library's collections and services. Oh, and apparently Lyle is trying to join us, he says. So, he wants the link. Karen, can you send?
Yep, I'll send that to him. Thank you. I just sent it to him. I don't have things like in front of me that I can text him, but
okay. Excuse me. Yep, sorry about that. Okay, so I have a motion that the Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry County Library Board approves the meeting agenda as amended. Can I have someone approve that? Dave, and seconded by Frank. All those in favor? Thank you, that's carried. Any declarations of pecuniary interest? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the adoption of the minutes. That the Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry County Library Board approves the minutes of the March 10th, 2022 regular meeting, including the in-camera minutes. Could I have a move for that, please? Jim, thank you. And a seconder? Francois, thank you. Any changes or concerns? Okay, so all those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much.
as written, yes.
As written. As written. Thank you. Okay, we have no delegations this evening, and I see Lyle is joining us.
Yep, I'm here. Sorry for the delay, guys. I couldn't find the Zoom link.
It's okay. We're glad you're here. So we're just so we're just at delegations. We have no delegations this evening. So we'll move on to the consent items. That the Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry County Library Board approves all items listed under the consent items section of the agenda as presented. Would someone like to move that? Dave, thank you. And seconded by Jim, thank you. Was there any items that anyone wanted to discuss? Karen?
I just wanted to let everyone know I've got the February 2022 statistics beside me and the March ones from your agenda. Things are definitely looking up. We circulated more than 8,000 more print and AV items for a total of more than 11,000 items circulated over the previous month. We had about 500 more visitors, or sorry, borrowers. You're borrowing from our resources, and more than 2,000 visitors over the previous month. So this is what happens when we can open our doors and welcome people back. And we signed up more than 100 new members over the previous month. Just wanted to put that out there.
Very impressive. Anyone else have any questions? Jim.
Thank you, Margaret. I just wondered if there's anything to report on the
Systems librarian search.
The post for the position is out. It does close next Friday. I tend not to, bother the person receiving the applications to see if anything's happened. We won't really know until after next week about that. I'm hopeful. I remain hopeful. But we'll see.
Okay, thank you.
And I can also report that our community librarian returned today for input, put in a full day. She will be working on and off into next week, but as of next Thursday, she should be back on a full-time basis. Okay?
Good.
Anyone else? Okay.
Good, thank you.
Thanks, Lyle. I believe we had a mover and a seconder, Karen, for that.
We did. We had David moved and Jim seconded on this, that the consent items be approved as presented.
Okay. All those in favor?
In favor.
Thank you, Lyle.
Right.
So that's carried. Thank you. And then we will move on to the action items. So I will turn it over to Karen to talk about the access to information and protection of privacy policy. Karen?
Okay. We want to move or just, shall we have our discussion first? So it's really up to you, Madam Chair.
Well, it's either as presented or as amended, so
Okay.
I didn't know.
So I just wanted to kind of bring it to your attention. We did review this last month. And at that time, the members of the board did ask me to check with some wording. One being the consultation with our lawyer, SDG County's Director of Corporate Services Clerk read through the entire policy. She did think it was a good policy, but she recommended using the word legal counsel rather than consultation with our lawyer. She as well, there was some question about under the accountability, whether, if you remember, the policy did say that the warden of the counties was legally accountable and whatnot, but she clarified that to say that it is the Director of Library Services who is responsible for compliance in these areas. I think those were the only other changes. I did add a couple of, I get that opportunity to showcase that it's the SDG library, and as is considered good practice, I added some links or reference to other policies that we have at the end of the whole thing, just our communications policy and our delegation of authority policy. So those are the only changes I've made since our last meeting, mostly in clarifying those two areas that the board sought more information.
Did anyone have any questions or changes, concerns? So I did kind of do it backwards, but I'll read the motion. That the Stormont, Dundas and Glengarry County Library Board approves the access to information and protection of privacy policy as presented. Could I have a mover for that, please?
I'll move.
Okay, Lyle, and I'll take Frank as the seconder. And all those in favor?
In favor.
Thank you. That's carried.
Right. Thank you.
Okay. Next on the list is the policy review, the political elections policy. So I will read the motion that the Stormont, Dundas and Glengarry County Library Board approves the political elections policy as presented. Could I have a mover for that? Dave, thank you. A seconder? Jim?
I can second that.
Okay, or I got Jim. Thanks, Lyle.
Okay.
I'm sorry, who was the mover?
Dave,
David, thank you, sorry.
and seconded by Jim.
Okay. got it.
And I will then turn it over to you, Karen.
I don't normally, I want everyone to know, I don't normally spring a policy or document on you for decision. We usually introduce them as first as a
You have my
discussion
mom's
item.
stuff there too, eh? Yes. Okay, good.
Everyone okay? Okay. We would normally bring these to the board as a discussion item for review, discussion, maybe some amendments, and then bring it back the next meeting for decision, one way or the other. And however, there is this might have gone a little beyond me, but the Municipal Elections Act requires that local boards have rules and procedures in place by May 1st of the election year, which this is. We've had this policy in place since May of 2018. It is a good policy. It's strong and comprehensive, and therefore, really, this is a housekeeping item that I'm asking the board to update just in terms of our policy reviews, so that we are in compliance with the Municipal Elections Act. And I think I made a couple of little housekeeping things, of course, changing that SDG to SDG library, as was the change since the policy was first written. And really, other than that, it's exactly the same as what we originally passed in 2018.
Frank?
So I understand we did make changes, so it will reflect on the new that has been reviewed, amended, and a new date. But if outside of the SDG, if we didn't amend it, do we have to bring it back every 4 years, or is it, if we're happy with it, is it something that can just, as long as it rides in the background? I'm just curious to see if it's a mandate or if it's just something that
No, I think if you're, I mean, again, I brought this to our attention in part because it did need just a couple little tidy housekeeping things, but I don't think it is required if the board is satisfied with the policy and is confident. I don't think it has to be brought back every time there's a municipal election.
It should be reviewed, though.
It should, but we do try. That is the practice that we've been following. We do try to review all of our existing policies within the 4-year term of the board. Yes.
Any other questions?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Lyle?
Yeah, I don't remember it the last time. I don't think I was here the last time, but I thought it was a very thorough policy. And I think that, it just lays out some pretty clear guidelines and rules for everyone to follow. So I certainly am in favor of the minor amendments. And I think it's, I think it's a good thing to review it once every 4 years, because our board members may not be the same. So that's my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so any other questions? Sorry. All those in favor?
In favor.
Thank you. That's carried.
And for what it's worth, folks, I just want to be upfront with this. I think Frank, you mentioned, Francois, you mentioned about the amendment, or maybe it was Jim, but I did just add at that review, under review date at the beginning, I added the word amended April 14th, 2022. Is everyone okay with that?
Yes.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Next is the release of reserve funds, specific donations reserve. And I will read the motion that the Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry County Library Board authorizes the release of $1,200 from the library's specific donations reserve to be used to help offset the cost of new carpeting at Winchester Branch. Could I have a mover for that, please?
I'll move.
Thank you, Lyle. Seconder? Jim, thank you. And I'll turn it back over to you, Karen.
Yeah, okay. So as you read in the summary, the for several years, we have had just a little donation jar on the circulation desk at Winchester branch for small donations to be directed specifically at replacing the carpet. The carpet at Winchester branch has been held together with duct tape and, periodic trimmings of straggly bits of carpeting material for several years. The facility used to be the township offices for North Dundas, and when they moved into their present facility, that was the space they provided to us for Winchester branch. So walls were taken down, et cetera, and of course there's little bits of carpet, like a room here, a room there, and a room down the way of carpeting, all different, all with their little frayed edges. And we tried to keep it going for a long time, and it was always an ask that we made of the municipality year after year can we get our carpet replaced. So this year they budgeted for it said that we're going to do it. And so over the month of, the end of February into the middle of March, the renovations at Winchester branch were done, and starting with the replacement of the carpet. And the new carpet are those large carpet tiles now, and so which is great for if you do have to replace carpet bits. But the conversation between the library and the municipality was always that, if you get that new carpet installed, we will do what we can to help it, because we have been collecting donations for this project for a long time. So we do have about $1,250 in the reserve fund, especially for carpeting at Winchester. And Winchester, in their eagerness to get us to fulfill our side of the deal that we had discussed, they sent us an invoice for $1,200 for carpeting. So my ask here is, can we just take that $1,200 out of that special fund that we've been saving for such a long time and use it to help the municipality. It's a small amount. I'm sure the overall cost was probably closer to $10,000, but it is, it was something that we saved and sought donations over a long time. I think it's only fair that we offer it back to them.
Go to Frank first.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. So Karen, just for clarity, so the 1,200 was collected from donation from, I guess, the constituents that utilized the library. Now, yes. This is a municipally owned building.
Yes.
So there's, just to avoid confusion, we have many branches. This applies. So my question is, the money that was collected, were we just the holder of that money that was put in our reserve and now we're retransferring back to them?
Yes.
Could that have been something that could have went to the municipal side of things? They have it in the reserve and then they do whatever they wish to do. Just to clarify I know, like, when we did, because is every, like, the paint, flooring stuff, is that all responsibility of the municipalities?
It really does. It really does depend, Francois. We've had a number of different beautification projects that we've undertaken over the years. Sometimes the municipality will cover some of it. Like we've had, like in this case, the municipality did pay for painting and painters to come in and do it. There have been other times when we have had to paint ourselves, and we've actually gone out and sought donations from paint supply companies to give us a good deal or give us paint to beautify a branch. It really does depend. One area that is always a bit, in my mind, a bit contentious is if we need to have internet drops. A modern library can't function without ample internet drops. It is very rare that a local municipality or the landlord, shall we say the landlord, would finance the new internet drops for us. We end up paying for that. So in this case, it really was just as a kind of a grassroots, low key activity on our part to try to raise some money. I think that initially the hope was that we'd raise so much money that we wouldn't even need to, we could bypass the municipality and just get new carpeting in, but that wasn't possible. So we just bought rolls of duct tape instead.
Like I said, I'm in
things
full
going.
support. This is not our money. So the people that use it have been the one that made the donation. So I'm just saying to make sure that because of the multiple branches and the optics, we have to make sure that there is something of a tracking and explanation. So yeah, I fully support our little venture here. So
I would also add, this is really an aside, but if we ever want to, for example, see or influence or advocate for, say, a branch expansion, which we have talked about with in South Glengarry, for example, that would require a fair bit of fundraising on the library's part in order to even be hoped to see something like that would happen, because it's a big project, and we've been assured that without some active fundraising, it can't happen. So we do this from time to time, and we have over the years tried to get a good fundraising strategy put together. We're not successful with that yet, but it's something that is very much on our minds at the library, because we do know that there are times when we do need to access extra funds than what we budget for different projects.
I'll go to, sorry, Frank.
no, that's I said thank you.
Okay, I'll go to Jim next.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Karen, I wondered if the local library staff there could put up a little sign or something or other where the jar used to be, saying that the monies collected in that jar over the years have been used appropriately.
That's a great idea, Jim. I like that very much.
Thank you to the patrons, or however you like to word it, but let them know that it was used.
Yep, I like that very much. It's very kind. Okay.
Yeah, I like that too. And it was ear tagged for that. So perfect.
I guess you wouldn't even have to say how much it was. Just
Yep.
money that collected was used to assist in the renovation.
I like that very much. Very, very, very kind. Very kind-hearted.
Okay. Any other questions? So all those, sorry, Lyle.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo exactly what Frank said. He took all my points, which is good. And I like Jim's thoughts as well in regards to putting a little note. So sorry for that last word.
No, that's fine. Thank you. So all those in favor?
In favor.
Thank you. So that's carried. And I will read the motion for the next item, that the Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry County Library Board authorizes the Director of Library Services to seek proposals for external consultative services to lead a service delivery organizational review of library services, with responses to be brought to the board for review and decision at its next regular meeting. Could I have a mover for that? Dave, thank you very much. And a seconder?
I'll second.
Okay, I'll take Lyle this time. Lyle? And Karen, then I will turn it over to you.
I'm trying to log on with my laptop. I just got back home.
Okay, no problems.
Yes, okay. I apologize for kind of springing this on you fairly late in the game, but there have been lots of discussions going on. Margaret and I have had meetings. I've met with consultants from the Ontario Library Service. I've met with the county's chief administrative officer. This kind of relates to something that we started talking about last time with regard to how do we meet our human resource needs from largely in terms of positioning ourselves to do a better job at, getting back on our feet after COVID, making the public more aware of what we do, filling that systems librarian position, managing the workload of individual employees, et cetera. And we, in the course of doing our strategic planning work, we are, hopefully envisioning and putting our blue sky glasses on to imagine a new way of seeing the library and doing business and getting that word out and whatnot. But we honestly don't even know it at this point. In the last 6 months, have certainly made it very apparent that do we have the capacity to do what we want to do? And that's even before we know what our goals and strategies are going to be. So in the course of these conversations I've had with Margaret, with Tim Simpson, our CAO, and with Peggy Malcolm, our consultant at Souls, who is a resident here in SDG, really everyone kind of thought, this probably would be a really good time to actually get some professional, clear-eyed, unbiased advice on what our organizational capacity is, whether we can do whether we can deliver the services we want to with the personalities or the positions we have, not even personalities, the positions we have, whether we, I don't think we're going to, the idea is to get into, do we have enough branches or too many branches or too many programs or anything like that. It really is more, do we have the organizational structure that we need to move forward? So this ask is with that in mind. I can tell you right now that we have not budgeted for this particular activity, external activity. However, there is probably going to be a few $1,000s. I can't say how many, maybe 10 to 15 possibly $1,000 that we did budget for our strategic planning activities that could be applied to something like this. But we also have a lot of surplus right now, and it just seems that the timing is ideal. And I mean, even at this point, if I started next Tuesday, Tuesday afternoon, I'm in council in the morning, but if I started next Tuesday, I wouldn't have found 3 possible consultants that we could be, looking at for probably the better part of a month. And then it would be probably another month before we could actually get them engaged and doing the work that I think we need to have done. So I'm asking, can we get this started sooner than later? And hopefully we can get it to tie in with that blue sky thinking and planning for our long-term future, and have developed that stability that I think we're lacking right now. So that's where my ask is.
Any questions for Karen? Frank?
I might as well go first. So thank you, Chair McDonald. So Karen, when I was reading this, my first thought was, maybe I'm not quite sure, but all the work and money that's being spent on this strategic plan, and then now we're not halfway into it, we're getting into it, and now we're talking about, but do they not go hand in hand? Like how, as far as, or if that's the case, should we not have dealt with that part first and get that kind of settled before we jump into a strategic plan? So maybe, I don't know what the other board members think, but it's just because it was quite substantial for the cost of the strategic plan, and to reinvest another 25 to 30, I'm not sure. And again, my only other concern is we've been struggling trying to retain new staffing. So there's a lot that comes into play that, yes, we can have a direction, but if we don't have we can have the cart, we can all be sitting in it, but if the horse is not tied to it, we're not going too far. So there's questions there, and maybe someone else can jump in.
Would you like me to respond to that? I kind of agree. I will say, though, at the time when we were looking to engage a strategic planning facilitator, we didn't know what challenges we were facing in terms of our staffing issues. And, you know, we keep thinking, well, maybe we need to tweak this job description, or maybe we need to, you know, remove some of the responsibility, or, you know, change the reporting structure or something like that. And, you know, I'm trying to keep the train on the track and the wheels turning and whatnot. And like, I really, like, my sincere goal is to get us into a new strategic planning and to start operationalizing it in the second half of this year, and just be able to see the future start to unfold around us. But I mean, we're feeling pretty strapped. We're feeling pretty strapped with our current staffing levels, and we do need to do something. I did actually reach out to Larry Day to ask that they actually did some organizational review work. We've had in the past, it's been 11 years ago, but when we had an external facilitation of a strategic plan, they also did at the time a facility review. So I took that experience and reached out to Larry Day about this. They do not do this. They could possibly offer us some recommendations of other consultants or organizations to reach out to, but I'm not there yet. We're not there yet. So I'm really, this is a, you know, I just want to make sure before we start realizing the new strat plan that we've got the organizational structure to do it. Because I would say it would be a real shame to not be able to do what we dream of doing here.
So subsequent, since it's my question. So secondly, so thanks for the answer. And yeah, I like I said, it's an area where the easy fix was if you could put people in place and get a direction, and then everything follows. But so secondly, does as far as Rebecca, so we're talking about potentially, but it's not budgeted item. So before the board can turn around and say, yeah, you know what, I'm on board, let's do it. Do we have consent from finance departments to? Well,
it is the library board's money. Currently, I think there's about around $230,000 in surplus funds.
So it's in our powers.
That belongs to the library board. Yes.
Okay.
If I could just add, it was actually CAO Simpson that supported going out and getting someone that was a bit further removed from the situation to get a better perspective of it. I find at SDG Library, it's a very high hierarchy. There's a lot of levels. And you know, we talked about flattening out those levels. We looked at that. You know, we asked questions around, is it just to deal with some of the problems that we're facing, or is it this the best way to go? As Karen said, we had the conversations with Peggy Malcolm as well. I'm not an expert in organizational reviews and structures by any means, but Tim was supportive of us as well, getting something like this finally underway. And this is just the green light for Karen to actually just go out and get costing for this. So it's not asking us, you know, to decide tonight. It's asking for opportunity to go out and get costing. And I'll go to Lyle next.
Yeah, thank you. Frank made some good points, but I do agree that it's kind of a separate thing, and I would be in favor of going out. We've lost a lot of talented individuals in the last number since I've been on the board, so maybe there's some things that we're not seeing that making some structural changes to that would benefit the library as a whole. So, and I think a fresh set of eyes sometimes. And it could be so obvious to them, but we're just not seeing it, right? And so I certainly am in favor of this. I mean, I agree with you, Frank. You brought up some really good points. You don't want this strat plan, but you don't want to do the cart before the horse, but maybe the horse is lame. So anyways, I'm good. I think this is a step in the right direction, and we have the funds to do it. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Go to Jim next.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. I agree with the consensus here. I see it when I first read it. It seemed to me like it was overlapping. The two projects were overlapping, but as I thought more about it, it's clearly a separate issue altogether. And I think it'd be a good thing to go ahead with it, or at least get some more ideas on it, and proceed as necessary, because it's really separate from the strategic plan. We need the organization to implement the strategic plan. It's not part of the same thing. So I'm in favor of that.
Thank you for that.
And I guess I'll jump in and say the same thing, that I think I'm in favor of this too. We might be talking like this is something that took us too long to get done or to start, but it is getting done now, and it's a good idea to get this in order for next term. We can't base a lot of what we think we need to do or what we haven't done right maybe over the last couple of years because of the pandemic. I mean, everything's been all over the place. So we have to give a little bit there, but I think we're in the right direction. This is, we need to spend some money because I think we're going to get that money back in the long run just by being more effective and knowing what's going on within our house. So this is a good time to do it, and I'm all in favor of it.
Thank you for that, David. Any other comments? So all those in favor? Thank you. That's carried.
Okay, thank you. I'll bring what I can back to you next meeting. Well, the next regular meeting. Sorry.
Okay, so we'll move on to the next item. The Ontario Library Service Spring 2022 Board Assembly Meeting. I won't spend a lot of time on this, obviously, but as you can see, Karen is right on top of things, because topics at the meeting included taking a look at your municipal elections policy, which we did tonight, and which another item which is coming up later in the agenda regarding disconnecting from work. So Karen's exactly on track with everything that needs to be done. The only 1 point or 2 points that I wanted to flag, and I mentioned this at our last meeting, and this is more for the lay members than the councillors, but current board members, please remember that you have to reapply if you do wish to continue. So Jim, I'm looking at you. And the other important point was that the existing board exists until the new appointments are made. So we don't typically have meetings, during the summer months, but if there were a reason for an emergency meeting, if something happened, you are still considered the board until the new appointments are made. So I just wanted to make a point of that. Other than that, the information in there is pretty straightforward and speaks for itself, I think. So, did anyone have any questions? Jim?
Thank you. Just an aside to that, when is the deadline to apply for an appointment to the board? Is it at a set date or is it just sometime in the fall?
I think you probably have right up until the election to consider and submit your letter of interest. I also wanted to mention that that letter of interest, if it's going to be submitted, should be submitted to the clerk of the council. I have little to no input say. That's just by tradition. Some libraries, the CEO does have quite a bit of say about applications for the board. It's just never been a practice here at SDG. But so letters of interest are addressed to, I can give you the name here right now, Kimberly Castleman, and she's the Director of Corporate Services / Clerk of the United Counties. Kimberly, Kimberley, Castleman as the name, like the town, so you know how to spell that. And just that letter of expression, if a letter of expression was to come to me, I would simply forward it on to Kimberly. Okay. If the board at any point ever wants the Director of Library Services to weigh in on applications for the board, like, I mean, what I would be looking at is, you know, if we got would applicants bring certain skill sets that maybe are lacking in other board members, et cetera, et cetera. Margaret has recently told me that she another board that she sits on, she got a lawyer on the board, which I thought that was pretty cool. but I don't have any say. I don't have any say in that matter at all. I'm happy to work with whoever is on the board, and that's fine by me. So it's really up to the board what you want. But I think the council bylaws and procedure bylaws and whatnot spell it out pretty carefully that it is a matter for the clerk and council to deal with. Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, then we will move on to the next item, which is policy development, disconnecting from work policy. And I will read the motion that the Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry County Library Board approves the disconnecting from work policy as presented. Could I have a mover for that? Lyle, thank you, and a seconder. David, thank you. And I'll turn it over to Karen, and if it needs to be as amended, we can do that as well.
I also would suggest that because this is a brand new policy that is being developed, you could choose not to, you could choose simply to defer, and that we'll bring this back next month for decision. But I've got some notes here for me, sorry. The Ontario Working for Workers Act was given royal assent on December 2nd, 2021, and it amends various statutes with respect to employment and labor, including the Employment Standards Act of 2000. For libraries, under this amended legislation, the Working for Workers Act, employers will now have to think very carefully before reaching out to employees outside of work hours. And employees will have the legal right to disconnect from work outside their usual working hours. This policy development is only required for organizations with 25 or more employees, which we have. And we have until June the 2nd to create and approve this required policy. Okay. That's why I'm bringing it to your attention now. So if we still have a bit of time, if you don't want to pass it as it is tonight or with some amendments, we still have next month that we can work on it. I will also be fully honest about it. I cribbed virtually all of this. actually from I think we've mentioned this a few times in the past, the Ontario Library Services sample policy catalog called the Trillium Public Library Catalog of Policies. And actually the Ontario Library Services, cribbed this policy with from the Woodstock Public Library's right to disconnect policy, which has been in place for a while. I took it upon myself to also reach out to the CEO of the Woodstock Public Library, because I did have a couple of questions regarding operationalizing this policy, especially in section 2 in particular, and so I feel pretty comfortable that my ability to copy and paste effectively has resulted in a pretty good draft policy, but you're welcome to make any changes or amendments that you think would be suitable for this policy. After all of the policies are the library board's policies.
I'll go to Lyle first.
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair. I don't really have an issue with this policy. I don't know much about it. I read it through. I mean, it says that, but if you need to contact them, like you have that ability to do so.
But we normally can't be penalized for not getting back to you. That's the real thing. They can't be held, responsible for
right.
Whatever.
Yeah, right. For sure. I understand that. Generally, we do, when there's a new policy at our council, we do like a first and second reading, and then council and staff receive comments, and then it comes back for the final. I'd be fine with just receiving it today, and then if there's anybody who wants to add something, doing it before the June deadline. But it's pretty straightforward. And sorry.
Okay, I'll go to Frank next.
Okay, so you want my opinion, do you? So my opinion is I would slide that right off the page and not look at it again. So that's just me. Yeah, it's there. Like Lyle said, it's got a section at the bottom where it states that, oh, well, if you need to get in contact with them, we are a public entity at the counties. And I don't think it's never been an issue. I've seen areas where if you're in the private sector, I've had where employees basically think the mindset of be thankful I gave you a job, and the people are strapped and basically forced to make sure answer email if I call you and so on. So I don't think there's an issue at the United Counties or in our so-called public sector. Maybe you guys can all disagree with what I'm saying, but with this kind of format, when you get a policy like this, my view is you're just opening up to create more issues than what really is needed. I mean, if you don't want to be bothered, just don't answer your phone. You're not expected. I was away on holidays. I was away here. So I think by putting something on paper, it just creates a chance more to, so it's just me. I'm willing to support it, but I just don't feel that in the area of, unless Karen, you're the dictator and every staff has to, but I don't think this is the case. But again, that's just my view on this.
I believe it's legislated, but I'm going to turn it over to Karen.
Yes, I will say it is legislated, and I can tell you that councillors at this meeting will be seeing something probably not exactly like this, although I think I've passed this by the Director of Corporate Services clerk as well to view, but it's something will be coming to the council table as well. I somewhat agree with you, and certainly the CEO of the Woodstock Public Library agrees with you that it's kind of a, one you let kind of slide away, and it doesn't have quite the grit maybe that some other policies are, but we are required to do it. So that's the story behind that one.
So with that, Madam Chair, I would support Councillor Warden in this fact that we can accept it and review it. So thank you.
Okay. Jim, I'll go to you.
Yes, I don't have any problem or any issues with it either. I just just wondered if Karen had consulted staff throughout the office there. Did you have any discussions with your local staff or some of the outlying staff?
Yes, we have. It has been something we've discussed at a management meeting recently within the last couple of weeks, with the idea that, I mean, sometimes actually we need to be reminded ourselves to give our colleagues a break. And certainly that was something that came up, is that, you know, we don't need to be on for each other either all the time. Like, we do have the right to just say, I'm done for today, and go home. So it has been discussed at that level. I don't think that they've actually looked at the policy, the draft policy that's before you, but it's pretty straightforward, and I think they understand better, because I kind of laid it out a bit as in terms of expectations as well, is that, you know, I expect you to take time off and leave each other alone a little bit. Anyway.
Any other questions?
I'm going to agree with everyone else. It's a policy. It's something you have to have. You can sit here for 8 hours and discuss changes and little changes here and there, but I don't think there's a problem with the interpretation, and that's usually where the problems are. It's pretty clear cut. So, you know, these are the rules. It's black and white. I think we can probably let this slide through tonight too.
So I'm happy either way. If the group wants to defer, take a chance to read it and bring it back, or if you want to pass it tonight, I am good either way. Lyle?
Yeah, I'm fine with passing it tonight. It's new for me, and I just wasn't sure if the board was comfortable, but seriously, it seems that the board is, and I'd be fine to move it or second it. Doesn't matter.
Okay, I think, did we already get a mover and a seconder?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
You moved and David seconded. So.
Okay. If people are comfortable with that, we do have the option. I didn't have any changes with regards to it. So are people comfortable then with approving it this evening?
As presented, yeah.
As presented. Frank?
Nope. I'm just saying.
Okay. So is that carried, everyone? Show of hands?
Yeah.
Okay. Karen, that's carried.
Thank you. Be less on next month's agenda for sure.
Okay.
Okay.
So, as per Section 5.4 of the Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry County Library Board's Procedure Bylaw, and under Section 239 brackets 3.1 of the Municipal Act, the board proceed in camera for the purpose of educating or training members strategic planning. Could I have a mover for that, please?